Hey Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful day. And this time with a quote by Dan Coe. He said, "How to believe in yourself. Stop seeing confidence as some deep psychological mystery. It's not. It is a process of doing something you suck at over and over again until you have a track record that your mind can't emotionally distort to the point of paralysis. You have to train your mind. You have to stop being dominated by the irrational fear response that comes from taking the first step." So Peyton, how do you believe in yourself, and how do you think about that and train with regard to believing in yourself?
Great quote. Great to be back with you, man. I think he's pointing at another way of talking about this is the negative capability. How much do we have the capacity to bear? How much do we have the capacity to endure? How much do we have the capacity to feel? What emotions are we okay with experiencing, with feeling? Do we have the permission, or do we give ourselves the permission to feel fear, to feel pain, to feel embarrassment, to make mistakes, to completely fail at what we're doing? And this is the only path forward to truly expanding our horizons, to expanding our capabilities, to growing. There's a quote by Epictetus where he says, and I'm terrible with quotes, but something along the lines of, if you want to grow or if you want to learn, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. And what he's pointing to here with confidence is a similar thing. If you want to be confident, be content to feel fearful. If you want to be confident, be content to feel completely out of your comfort zone. So this negative capability is something that we build by actually leaning in to the discomfort and the pain of failure, the discomfort and the pain of being totally out of our league, totally out of our depths, and experiencing actual discomfort. It doesn't feel good to us to be in unknown territory. We have these systems that are evolved to feel this perceived danger, this fear of the dark, so to speak. When we don't understand what's going on, we don't know what we don't know. And it's totally valid to feel that way because this is the emotional system that we're built with. And we do have to, in the modern world, with these totally new stimuli, it is somewhat a game of self-leadership. Can we have the trust in ourselves to expose ourselves to what feels so painful or so daunting or so uncertain or so fearful to us in this way or that way? And by doing so, we can then look back at all the times that we've done it before as evidence that we can take it, as evidence that I can do this too because I know that I've done that before. I know that I've experienced this before. I know that I overcame this. And so that's, in my opinion, how we can expand our capability to grow and to extend ourselves in our life, is by leaning in over and over, getting hit in the face and staying standing and realizing that we don't have a glass jaw. How do you experience this, or how do you think about the playbook or the biases that we should bring to our life in light of this dynamic of our own psychology?
Great point that you make with the negative capability, and that we have to lean in and stretch out into our comfort zones and out of our comfort zones to be able to grow out of our comfort zones and grow over ourselves, actually. And therefore, the new experiences we make when we do that become the new reference for our comfortable place to be in. So we widen actually the space of our comfort zone. And therefore we have to have this bias for following our curiosity, this bias of leaning into what is interesting to us, to ourselves. So when we look at children, how much time of their day do they spend on the edge of their own knowledge? So they constantly explore, they constantly seek out the new curiosities they see. So they go towards the things they don't know in order to confront themselves with it, in order to get to know what is this, in order to expand their mind, because they want to bloom, they want to grow, they want to sprout. So and Jesus also says, okay, go back and become like children again. And I think this is also a part of what he meant in terms of, okay, be curious again. Don't follow your structures. Don't identify yourself in a structure that is too tight. Just expand a little. Just go and be curious, and don't judge too much about, okay, this person is filthy, this person is poor, this person is rich and evil, whatever. Don't judge too much. Just be curious and follow your own calling and follow what makes you alive. So this is the pull approach, whereas the push approach is where you intentionally expose yourself to uncomfortable situations to expand your negative capability. The pull approach is create a space of expectations, of wonder, which pulls you towards itself because you want to go there. So this is the dichotomy I see there. That the push is very valuable when we know intentionally where we want to expand towards, talking to people and selling our product or service. And the pull approach is also very valuable when we give ourselves time and space to wander around. And then, as Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi said, mental meandering is intellectual exploratory time. So just follow your even your stream of thoughts and your brainstorm, and then you can pinpoint even better things which make you more curious. That's actually also a way how you can prompt models. Okay, brainstorm first, and then you have this precognition, and then from your brainstorm precognition, take the parts which are most effective in answering my question which I'm curious about. So we ourselves can have this precognition if we allow ourselves the time and space to wander, and we find things which we can be more and more curious about. So this is another great approach. And how do you train? How do you?
I think a key piece is real exposure. Is this idea that when you're avoiding this thing that you fear, and so you're not actually getting slapped on the face with it, it becomes scarier and scarier when it's over there, and you're taking these actions to keep this thing that you fear at a distance. You're reinforcing the enlargement in your mind over this boogeyman that you don't want to experience or you don't want to feel over there. So you can think about this on the level of emotions, and you can say that if you don't want to feel fear, then you're going to have a fear of fear, and the fear that you're trying to avoid is going to get bigger and scarier and more loomy in the mind. Whereas if you lean into it and you say, hey, fear is here right now. I feel this in my body. I'm being with this emotion and how it's manifesting in, typically it'll be like our lower abdomen. And I can accept that this is here right now. Then all of a sudden, in the welcoming it, in the being with it, in the not needing it to be any other way, then it can be there, and we realize that, oh, I really can feel this and still eat this food. I really can feel this and then go walk into this room and have a conversation. I really can feel this and still go do this. I'm not dead. It didn't murder me. It didn't disable me. And these more and more exposures to emotions, which I think is maybe the first level that some of these things, or the base level that many of these things play out on, is like we're saying that we don't want this thing to happen on the external world, but really it's more of, I can't accept that I might feel shame, or that I might feel embarrassment, or that I might feel fear, or that I might feel regret over this. The emotional level, and actually being willing to feel any emotion. Being willing to welcome any emotion, being willing to experience in our body, in our whole experience, any emotion. This, I think, is the foundation of being able to put ourselves out there in physical reality. And then, of course, that's where we need to take it next. So after we take it from the level of emotion, it's then taking it out into the level of the real world. I used to be fearful of getting into these intense confrontations with employees that I needed to manage. And so I would avoid some of these hard conversations that needed to happen, where I would put things back in order and level set expectations and hold tight to what the standards were. and be willing to give ultimatums or to face whatever fallout may happen or to deal with whatever drama ensued from leaning into this situation in front of me. And when I was avoiding them, the situations were bigger and scarier. And when I leaned in and faced it and even experienced the worst of it, the worst blowups, the worst drama, the worst negative energy, the worst anger and conflicts going on, and leaned in, then the next time I was doing it, I was far less fearful. Like, hey, I've already felt what there is to feel here. I know what this experience is like. This isn't going to kill me. I know from experience. I've watched. And I've watched that I'm the type of person that's completely capable of feeling this feeling, of doing this thing, of experiencing this experience, and keep on doing it again and again and again. Failure is one that was super big in my journey with all of this. I used to be fearful of failure. I used to be fearful of the regret of failure or the waste of failure or feeling like, oh, I started this business and then it didn't work and I was wrong and I thought it was going to work and then I wasted my time and I wasted my resources and now I have less than when I began and I would have been better off if I didn't do it. And this was the whole situation that I was so fearful of. This prevented me from doing things that, yeah, maybe I would have failed, maybe I would have succeeded, but even if I would have failed, I would have benefited from taking the risk because it would have leveled me up as an entrepreneur and increased my acumen. It would have been much better tuition spent than I ever spent at college, for example. And so feeling failure, I think, is another key one. This fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of just negative energy, confrontation, and fights. All of these things in my own journey, I didn't get better at doing these things by thinking about it more or making a better master plan or figuring out how to avoid them better. It was actually by facing and leaning into the very thing that I didn't want to experience that caused these big, scary, unpleasant things to become just like, oh yeah, this is just a wave that will come and I will feel and then it will wash over me and then it will be past and then I will be in a new energy. And it's this experiencing these things that we don't want to experience that can grow us and expand what we recognize that we're capable of. We're not scared of it the next time because we know that, oh yeah, I felt failure before. This might fail or it might succeed. I've felt rejection before. I might get rejected or I might not. I've felt anger before. I've had fights before. I might get hurt or I might not. And so there's this radical, like, we're okay with the ways that these things can go when we've actually experienced the ways that these things can go and we know from experience that we survived it. How do you think about the right balance in actually leaning in and surviving something that we might not want to feel or experience versus conserving our energy versus what is the right balance? How do we know that we're doing it for the right reasons to get the growth that we really want?
Excellent questions and excellent approach. Yeah, it's like being real in the real world helps so much more than just living in our heads and expecting certain things to happen just without our action. And finding the balance is, yeah, don't do it for the sake of itself. Don't do it for the sake of expanding yourself to any price possible, but do it because it aligns with your vision and your values. So you know about yourself to be true. If you know for yourself that, oh, in order to get to the place which I see in my vision, I have to learn these kinds of traits. I have to learn how to sell. I have to learn to expose my inner mechanisms and expose my thinking to the world so that other people can join in and riffing on these thoughts as well. So it aligns with my vision. So I lean into this uncomfortable exposure to much higher likelihood. And this is much more balanced in my opinion than just doing it for its own sake, just doing it because other people do it, doing it because, you want to just jump to the ends and find the best means for it. Well, sometimes it works, but to preserve your own energy and to make it more likely that you find the things that generate energy, best is to align it with what you know about yourself to be true, what you know about yourself, where you need growth, where you need to make decisions, where you need to cut off things that no longer serve you, and where you need to explore in this direction. So the balance is, in my opinion, very unique and tailored to each person who wants to go out. But the method is always the same. Expose yourself little by little with a little bit more. Go into the world and experience the full catastrophe. Even if it hurts, just know that things pass. And if you do the body work like you talked about, and experience the tight belly or the tense muscles, more mindful you approach any exposure, the more likely it is that you will just bounce off and be back at your best self again after a few moments. So you have this resilience which you build up with actually training your awareness about, okay, where do I feel this emotion? Okay, for how long did I feel these emotions in the past? In which circumstances? And what did I do? There's also a reference to trauma therapy, and where the observation was made that wild animals who experience trauma in being captured and so on, when they are released into the wild and they shake it off, they just shake it off and then they don't think about it anymore. Whereas humans, they build this structure in their head, they preserve this kind of memory from the past, and then they feel it again and again and again. They're exposing themselves to the thing they want to avoid just through avoiding to expose it. So it's a much more complicated thing with the humans. So the best thing is to rely on your animalistic senses again and dance it off, for example, or walk it off. Just walk around the block and run around the block or whatever. But use your body and use your intuition to deal with these kinds of feelings, negative feelings, and increase your negative capability through your exposure therapy. Because it's like with any poison, if you give yourself a little dose which doesn't kill you, it makes your body adapt to the dose, so you can increase this dosage. So this is the mithridization, or I don't know the English word for it, but there was this ancient king Mithridates who ate a little bit of arsenium, as well as Nero's mother, like the emperor of Rome, Nero. His mother feared that his son would kill her, so she immunized herself against arsenic poison. But then, he sent some mercenaries, so it didn't help. But,
Hard to immunize yourself from mercenaries.
Yeah, how to do that? I don't know. Don't have a maniac as your son.
Key.
Yeah, how to do it. So you never know what you get. So life is like a box of pralines and chocolates. Deal with it and be in the moment with it, and then don't mind what happens. And then I guess this is a real exposure. That's the balance. Be present with whatever you feel, with the knowledge of whatever you feel will also pass, and with the conviction that you will grow from it, and your mindset matters as well. Because whatever happens to you, you can interpret it in a way which helps you grow. You can interpret it in a way where you can make sense of it, where you can give sense to whatever happens. So you are the narrator of your own life story. So why not just tell yourself a story which is meaningful to you? And then from your stories, you can also build a meaningful life. You can build meaningful relationships through sharing similar stories which you tell each other, saying, oh, I would love to be together with you in 20 years still as well. And the other person tells it too, and then you tell yourself the stories, and then you can measure the deviations, and then you build your life according to your stories. Just tell yourself beautiful stories in that regard as well. So negative capability, real world exposure, finding the balance, confronting rejection, and doing it all because of it serves your core of being. So how do you find what serves you well, Peyton? How do you do it? How do you do it?
Great question. It really does come back to awareness, I believe. And this theme that we've brought up a couple times today is the difference between being only in our head, only in our words and narratives about things versus being connected with the whole of our being connected, feeling our body and feeling the very light of our awareness itself. That includes the body and the mind. That includes all the thoughts and all the somatic emotions, all the energetic waves. And I think that the more we can connect with this experience of wholeness, of everything all at once, one big gestalt, and we're feeling completely connecting with and allowing to be all of reality, it's almost as if reality itself has some magnetic pull toward wisdom for us when we kind of get out of the way, when we allow our patterns to be as they are and play without us being so implicated in all of them, and we can recognize all of the gestalt. It's almost as if there is an emergent quality from all of that that whispers or nudges or like almost like pulls our heart in one direction or another, whether for ease or for pain or for challenge or for growth or for change or for expansion or whatever the case may be. Learning to stop consistently shoving our own wants on things and instead step back, relax, and listen. Like listen to the whole of ourselves. This is where we can find what is the thing that we're meant to lean into versus what is not meant for us. Like it's not just because something is easy doesn't mean we're meant to do it, but also just because something is painful doesn't mean we are meant to do it either. And we cannot have one math equation that shows us this versus that. We cannot do word stories and actually have a coherent narrative that encompasses all of the context. We actually have to let go of our constant habit of trying to map and math everything out in order to step back and listen and know whether or not this thing is meant for us or not. And then just to circle back to a point you made, you totally read my mind on so much of the game of increasing our negative capability has to do with framing. The framing especially of the pain, the fear, the regret, the failure. And this happens in two places, and both are important, actually. I don't think we can ignore one or the other and receive this or embody an operating system of growth. I think we need a growth mindset in advance of the decisions when we are deciding whether to lean into something difficult that we are called toward or to shrink from it. And after we have experienced a failure, pain, a difficulty, regret, or a loss, this is another place where framing comes into mind. And so in advance of the decision, when we feel the fear, the framing that I find very helpful is one, truly be with whatever is there. You can feel intense aversion, and maybe it's not fear-based. Maybe it's just, I hate that based. I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel that. I know what it's going to feel like, and I just don't like it. It could be an aversion-based or fear-based. And a lot of times when it's fear-based, we don't want to admit it to ourselves, so we cover it up with anger. But that's a different story. But this in advance, and the mindset here that I think serves is, one, reminding ourselves, look, I've been through this before. I know this isn't going to kill me. I know that I'm better off trusting what I feel called toward with courage and trusting in that voice and leaning in and facing whatever I face, because I know that even if I experience a quote bad or at least an unpleasant outcome or an aversive outcome or a painful outcome, that aversion, pain, this will lead to my growth, and that growth is what I want in the long run. I will live a long life. This will be a short phase. And so it might be short-term pain that empowers me for a much longer journey. And recognizing that, yes, of course, the bad scenarios are a possibility if I take this risk. That is the nature of taking a risk. There's unknown unknowns, and there's things outside of my control. And I may even make mistakes, because that's what we do. We're humans. And so recognizing and looking at, not blinding ourselves and saying, oh, I know this will work because I'm so smart and I have the perfect plan and I've thought through everything. That doesn't really work well. That causes us to be fractured and fragile. But actually saying that, yeah, I believe this is what I'm meant to do. I'm following the right voice, and I'll deal with whatever comes from it. I'll feel whatever comes from it. And I'll know that if I feel and fear, or if I experience negativity, if I experience pain, if I experience waste, loss, regret, failure, embarrassment, shame, any of that, those very negative experiences will be what I actually need, what is needed to grow me. I'm following this voice, and it might be calling me toward a win, or it might be calling me toward growth, and I trust that whichever outcome comes, that's exactly what's meant for me. That's exactly what I need. And then, after the fact, when we do experience loss, when we do experience regret, when we fall flat on our face, when we get our ass kicked, when we get the crap beat out of us by the universe, and we have the embarrassment of realizing that we've made some mistake in our judgment or a mistake in our performance that led to this, or we were betrayed by somebody, or we were fooled by something, or we miscalculated something, or maybe the fortune just wasn't in our favor. When we're experiencing the loss, when we're experiencing the, oh my gosh, that hurts, or this is hurting, this is another opportunity for reframing. This is an opportunity for us to recognize that, oh, right in this moment, I am paying the price of growth, and growth is worth it to me to pay this price. I am experiencing this pain because I did not shrink from what I was called toward. And that's something that I embrace about myself in this moment, even as I am paying the price. Even as I am paying the price, even as I look at this loss of something, actually it hurt all day and I'm in a worse spot than I was when I woke up this morning. That's what it's like some days. That experience of this insult on top of injury, on top of discouragement, on top of pain, this is the price of growth. When we're experiencing this and it just feels like we're besieged on all sides and it hurts, this is what growth feels like. Growth emerges from getting our butt kicked, expanding ourselves, and failing sometimes, feeling pain, feeling discomfort, feeling negative emotions, feeling these difficulties, feeling the regret of a mistake or a loss or whatever from being in the arena. Sometimes we're tempted to hate ourselves for it. Sometimes we're tempted to criticize ourselves for it. Sometimes we're tempted to feel regret and wallow in, how did I make this foolish mistake? This, I believe, is somewhat conditioned or a strong temptation, and it will happen and all of this stuff. But when we recognize that, when we have some awareness, we can step back and be like, wait, actually, I am trying to grow. I'm trying to expand. I'm trying to be courageous. Courageous people experience this. Courageous people don't shrink from things that have uncertainty. They lean into risk. And a part of leaning into risk is that sometimes it goes this way and sometimes it goes that way. And so when it goes that way, there's no reason for me to be surprised that some things that I do don't go well. There's no reason for me to be flabbergasted that I actually took a loss here and that there's some resources that cost me, or there's some experiences that cost my energy, or I didn't do as well as I could have, or I made a mistake, or whatever, the situation didn't go well. But in the moment when it didn't go well and I'm experiencing the consequences, this is another opportunity for us to frame in terms of growth. Because if we can experience this in the moment of the negativity and we can say, yes, this right now is what growth feels like. I actually embrace this. I accept this. This is a price that I'm grateful to be paying because I want the thing that I'm paying for more than I want to not pay this price. This reframing in the moment of the negativity, this also will expand our power the next time that we are fearful of some outcome. These two things, the reframing before, the reframing afterwards, they can help form a system of a mindset that can empower us in our life and that can help us to do things that are hard to do, and help us to feel things that are hard to feel, and help us to experience things that are hard to experience, all the while, because of our mindset, the very difficulty, the very pain, the very misfortune actually is alchemized into what strengthens us, what grows us, what enables us to be empowered the next situation that's even bigger to face and to lean in and to step forward and to follow whatever our whole being is calling us toward. And so this is I guess the opportunity, and something that's easy to forget but very helpful to remind ourselves of and to fall back into. Even when we're kind of out of the mindset, to recognize and be like, oh wait, actually, this is the greater context of this. And so that's my intention this week, to lean more toward in, to reframe, to have this growth mindset in advance, and when things don't go well. How about you, man? What are your intentions for the week?
So beautiful, man. Like the self-empowering through building your own system of framing it before you go for it, and reframing it after you went for it and experienced the consequences. And being courageous and leaning into uncertainty and expecting also that some things won't go as you planned. Some things won't turn out as you wanted them to turn out. But this is the price we have to pay if we want to pursue these kind of paths. We cannot invent a new way of being without leaning into uncertainty, without testing it against the real world and see what actually works. And so we can expect things to be not the way we wanted them. And then we build our reputation of ourselves. And it's also pointing back to Naval, where he says, okay, self-confidence is the reputation you have with yourself, and you are the one always watching yourself, and therefore you know whether you could trust your actions or not. So if you constantly lean into what you know for yourself to be true and trust yourself in your decision making, wanting to be courageous in whatever realm of life you want to be courageous in, expanding wherever you want to expand in, and lean into your curiosity wherever you want to. So you can build your self-reputation and your self-confidence and be step by step grow towards the being you were meant to be, if you feel yourself fully. So this is also my intention, to feel myself fully and to lean into the discomfort of growing into the person I need to become, because I know that it calls me. I know the world expects this from me, and therefore if I want to be growing into that person, I need to be courageous and follow that calling. Thank you very much, my friend.
Likewise, brother. Wonderful intentions. Really enjoyed the conversation. I will talk to you on the next one.
Talk to you soon. Bye.